Okay, good evening. It's 6:01 PM, and I'm calling the April 22nd Groton Board of Education regular meeting to order. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Dave, will you please lead us in that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next, we have comments from citizens regarding agenda items and other subjects of concern that lie within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. This is the portion of the agenda where the board welcomes comments from citizens. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be related to matters pertinent to Groton. Board members will only ask questions in order to clarify the speaker's presentation and cannot respond during the comments of citizens portion of the board meeting. Citizens should make their presentations from the podium and state their names and addresses for the record. Do we have anyone who would like to address the board?
Go and check online.
I am going to. Do we have anybody online? Yes. Councilor Bordelon?
I think she may need to move to a panelist. Or does she have to be-
Are we able to promote her?
I have to allow her to talk, yes.
Okay, please do.
There she is.
Waiting for her to unmute.
If you could just unmute.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. 24 Jefferson Drive, Groton, Connecticut. Full disclosure, I'm a town councilor. Tonight I'm speaking as a taxpayer, a parent of children in the school system. First, I just want to say that I have large concerns about the current situation status of the town budget, the process in which it was delivered, as well as the concerns about allocation of funds, in particular to education. Looking at this, I am concerned as to where, if in fact, the cuts that were made by 7 of my fellow council members, in fact, stays, what is this board's plan of implementation and where are they going to direct those cuts? The school cannot take any more hits to sports, recreation, music, and all the other extracurricular activities. As we look at our town, it's important to make sure that we're funding everything equitably and making sure that things are being serviced. If there's other cuts that need to be made, it shouldn't be on the backs of the students. My also concerns are the fact that I've also, been in contact and heard that the financial director has resigned. And that is a big concern considering we just had a financial director leave, and I feel this gentleman was an asset in helping with our town. I feel there should be some type of an emergency meeting of sorts to figure out what this board is going to do to move things forward. I know there's a lot of stuff going around about audits, other things. I know some board members haven't been present for a while, so I'm not sure. But there was a financial committee, and our chair was the financial director on that committee under the last term. What happened with the budget? What's been going on? Why are there so many unanswered questions? As I do have questions about the budget, I do not think it's fair to cut under those circumstances. That's directly going to impact our district and our students. But I do think questions need to be answered. I do think also, and I can speak as myself as a taxpayer, there are other cuts in the town that could be made. So I am concerned. Where's the direction of this going? Where is the Board of Ed going to make these other cuts that have not been disclosed yet if this is the new percent that is passed? The children in our town deserve better, and we deserve answers as to what's going on. Again, nothing is on the agenda tonight, which I was hoping there would be, because that could have been amended 24 hours before, and you've known for a while that the town council has decided not to fully fund your increase. I don't know. And then hearing the financial director's resignation, concerns me greatly for our district. So those are my concerns, but I do think that there's a lot going on here that has not been addressed. And I think, for the new board members, thank you. Thank you for coming on board. Thank you for asking those tough questions when it wasn't cool. Thank you for asking the things that you did ask when other board members and people on this committee, weren't in favor and thought that you guys were asking too many questions, in fact. But I think, the board members that are returning and the ones that have left, what was going on? How come nobody knew about some of these things that were going on, the audits, and you guys have a finance committee. Nobody knew anything? I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and I think Adrian and Ian and Mrs. White asked a lot of tough questions, and it wasn't as well received as it should have been. Again, I'm not for cuts, but I do think we need to figure this out, and I do have concerns about where you're going to institute those remaining cuts. It should not be on the backs of the students, the teachers, and the paras. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Do we have anybody else online, do we know? And do we have any other board members online at this point? Okay, all right. I just want to respond quickly that the board does have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night to discuss the budget. And that will be at 6 p.m. And the budget will be on the agenda. Any other responses? Hearing none, we will go to the student representative report.
Good evening. I'll start off tonight with talking about our sports. We have a whole lot of new coaches taking on new roles here at Fitch High School, and I just would like to start off with saying a huge thank you and a huge congratulations to the amazing successful starts to all those coaches and all those different teams. We've had an amazing start to our spring sports season here at Fitch High School. I'm a very superstitious man, so I will speak very little upon that, but all I will say is the implementations that our administrators have procured or put in place for us, specifically talking to, you have to go to something called Falcon Academy, which is our tutoring, for what we call our tutoring at Fitch High School if you have anything lower than a C- in any one of your classes. It is required, I know, because a buddy of mine almost wasn't able to compete because when you are assigned to go to Falcon Academy, you're not allowed to compete in your next competition until you do so. They're very strict about keeping the athlete version second after student. But a very, very amazing start to our spring sports, and we are looking forward to the continuation of those. Based on a recent spike in unacceptable behavior at Fitch High School, the administrators wasted no time and executed an impressive initiative to speak to our students. A Classroom Secure was called during our second block of the day, about, I believe it was the week before spring break. And one admin there are multiple administrators, including vice principals and principals, one admin per classroom made their way to every single classroom during that block, 80 minutes, to have an open and healthy discussion about the climate here at Fitch High School and the issues we have been experiencing. This was aimed at fostering a healthy conversation to push and change for the better our student environment angling towards the end of the year. We want to end on a happy and good note, and we do not want to continue to experience these things. And having a very open and honest conversation showed vulnerability on the administrator's part, and that made it very, very, very well received by the students. This wasn't just something that they came in and barked a bunch of orders and expected results. This was something that was taken, it looked like it was taken, a lot of time and effort was put into it to have an open conversation highlighting specifically what we want to make this community more, pick up, if I could put it into words that way. And that ties into the next important thing leading into our, for our senior spotlight. we had our senior meeting very recently to discuss our senior handbook and all the exciting upcoming events of the school year, specifically prom dates, testing dates, when we're supposed to actually show up for finals, what does it mean if you don't have to take a final, and making sure that all guidelines were put out very, very clearly for seniors to make sure that there was someone, that there's an example that you are still required to follow in order to participate in all these amazing events that we have scheduled for the end of the year. I think it was a very successful meeting to make sure that you have some rein in over all of these seniors who, like myself, just got accepted into a college, and now we're all loofy-goofy in our minds about school. Do I still want to show up? But the conversation itself helped maintain the status that you were still a student here, and you were still expected to be a student until you walk across the stage. That is, and in order to keep up and involved in all these amazing opportunities we have, you must continue your academic progression and behavior. Leading into our end of the year events, we have our AP and IB testing coming up, starting very, very soon actually. A lot of the classes are currently in review mode for AP and IBs. I know all mine are. So this is a pretty stressful time for a lot of students who may be taking multiple different exams on multiple different dates. A lot of these dates seem to usually come within the same week of each other. We wish our students well, the best of luck with all of their studies and all the hard work that they put in over these. Summer work really started for these APs and IBs back in August, so the culminating work of many, many, many long months of curriculum will be coming soon, and we are very, very excited to see those results of all our students' hard work. And April also doesn't just mean APs are coming up, it also means the month of the military child. So every morning, Mr. Brown has been playing patriotic-themed music, and it's a very awesome way to walk into Fitch High School at 7:40 in the morning when the sun is nice and you would much rather be at the beach or something like that. Having some amazing pump-up music to walk into first period is nothing short of needed. And going along with the patriotic themed, we also had a military family breakfast this morning where we were able to honor Joe Piazza, who was a Vietnam veteran who actually enlisted in the Marines before he received his high school diploma. So today at that breakfast, he was honored with an honorary high school diploma, and that marked a culminating end not very end, but an end of an amazing month where we were able to celebrate a lot of military students as we live in a Groton. Being a sub-based town, I think it was amazing that we got to highlight all those unique, different personalities and backgrounds. We even had right outside of our school counseling suite, we had a map of the entire world and had arrows with little, I don't know if you've ever seen this at stores, with little thumbtacks attached to twine showing all the different locations of travel that a lot of our students have had to see. And looking upon that map, I was blown away by the miles traveled. And it really is a great month to shine and show that all the extra effort that needs to go in behind doors to make sure that military children are looked in and kept in and treated the same and given all the same as anybody else. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, David.
Well, now that David kind of stole my thunder, I'm just going to try to piggyback on that. With the senior events, we have prom on June 8th, senior trip, which has, we're lucky that it's all free for us because our student council did very well at the pasta dinner we had a month ago-ish. So the senior trip is free, but that's on the 5th, and then the bittersweet graduation day on the 14th should be we're all kind of looking forward to it. And then for the testing, I know IB tests start this Thursday. I have one this Thursday, and they last until, I think, the 14th or 15th of May. I believe the first AP is May 6th, and there are several of those. But it is, like David said, a incredibly stressful time. At one point, I have 4 exams in one day, and it's going to be super fun. But I do want to say that all of our teachers, especially our new IB coordinator, Mr. Morth, they've all been doing a really good job of supporting us, making sure we're ready, and especially with the IB test, there are so many little rules that you have to follow. Mr. Morth does a really good job of making sure we know all of them, making sure everything's in place, and that we're all set for it. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you both.
Best of luck, guys.
Next, we have the Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent reports.
All right, I'm going to let Dr. Piazza start. I know that they just had a meeting with the curriculum committee and shared the review of the literacy timeline, so he's going to speak to that. And Lisa Corcoran, who is our humanities and literacy coordinator.
So, as Ms. Austin said, we had a great meeting just before this meeting of the curriculum subcommittee. We took a look at the document that is included in the board packet, the Groton K-5 literacy timeline. The goal of developing this timeline was just to present a reasonable timeline of achievement towards choosing a K-5 literacy program. The layout is really according to the curriculum committee policy timeline in terms of the different steps involved. We did make some changes to this during our meeting, so I will update it and get the most updated document to the board. Really, we talked about the goals of this process also being transparency, increasing the discourse between the teachers and the board about the process and their opinions on the process and the different programs that we're looking at, as well as, of course, choosing the best program for the students of Groton. So with those goals in mind, we did make some changes. Like I said, we are planning on having our next curriculum committee meeting is scheduled for May the 6th. That's going to be a virtual meeting, and where we're going to invite members of the curriculum review committee. There's 30 members of that committee. I won't plan on having them all there, but we're trying to encourage. That committee is made up of administrators and teachers from the elementary level. So we hope to get as many people there to just have a discussion. We're also going to do a quick survey before that meeting on the 6th, just to get some feedback from them on the process and what they saw during the review process, just to, again, probably guide the discussion more than anything with the curriculum committee. So again, that will happen on May the 6th. The end goal, as you could see, was a vote for approval on May the 28th. Again, we set that as a goal and worked backwards from there, hoping that similar to what we did with our UFly program initiative, is have that time in June to go to really do some introductory work across all the elementary schools, across all the grade levels, to introduce them to all the different resources that they're going to have, and begin to have those discussions as to what the expectations will be as we start the year. We realize that if things come up and if things get delayed or there's a need for an extension, this is a flexible schedule, obviously. That was just our goal, to allow for that work that we think is so important and that was so valuable rolling out. And I think it was the key to a successful rollout of the UFly resource. So that is definitely our goal. And to back up from that, we do that May 20th date on the committee of the whole. We would also like, and we can discuss with the chair to make sure that's on the agenda, to have teacher representation here as well, to continue that discussion with the full board. And be able to have any questions that the board has on the process, on the program, answered, and would still give us a week too, if there were some unanswered questions left, to still hit that date of May 28th for adoption of a program. So again, I think our discussion was a good one, and it was really based on making sure the teachers' voice is heard. And I will include the administrators in that as well, the principals and administration from the elementary schools who have been part of the process. We have 3 of the 5 principals involved in the review process, so they were well represented also. So again, I assume there'd be some updates to this, and I will provide that to the board, by end of day tomorrow. And I'd open it up to any members of this could probably also take the place of our committee review later in the agenda. I didn't know if Dr. Ackerman or Mr. Johnson wanted to add anything to our discussion.
Well, I think the only thing I would add later on is that we talked about board membership being included in meetings with I guess with presenters, and making sure that the staff understands that the board is, I'm going to use a phrase from the 1980s, that we're all in cahoots for kids. And we have we had just a passionate interest in knowing everything from the start.
Yeah, and we hope that these conversations that we have planned with the subcommittee and with the committee of the whole will help build that, build up those conversations and help people feel comfortable, so in the future, it becomes a natural thing.
We're all in this together.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
so that's really the update there.
We appreciate the hard work, and I know they've been giving you feedback all along. And I've gone in there, not very often, because I really want them to do all this work, you know, but I have seen, they've talked a lot about the process and how appreciative they are of the process, and they feel like they've really done a deep dive. So I think a lot of hard work.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and we will share some of those resources that were
Right.
used. I did share the review document, the review tool, with the subcommittee members, and that's something that the whole board will get a hold of. And I think you'll see right away how in-depth the review is, and that we're really covering all bases. And I will give a shout out to my colleague here, Ms. Corcoran, because she's really been leading, you know, and she's developed the atmosphere of trust and openness in the review process, which I think is really important. And I think that'll continue as we now include the board.
Excellent. Any questions?
Yeah, just have a couple. One, so I guess, well, I'm not sure like how it relates. Well, it does relate because the curriculum committee now is just down to 2 members of the Board of Ed
Correct.
due to a recent resignation, which we're going to discuss at some point tonight.
Yes.
But I do want to just kind of put it on the record that I would be interested in filling the 3rd seat there. I'm a state certified teacher. I do my school district. I am actually on the curriculum committee for the RLA, reasoning through language arts. So it's, you know, I have a lot of experience with, you know, building curriculum as well. So like I think I could be a strong asset to help kind of the review process and kind of hasten things along. I want to thank you for the effort of putting this timeline together. I can see that, you know, apropos to the conversations we had during the committee of the whole, that all the steps are there, so that's good to see. It is, of course, incredibly accelerated compared to what's in the policy. You know, the document, one of the fold-out documents in the policy shows like this process actually occurring over the span of almost a full year. So, you know, it's a concern that, you know, some things may get missed in the hustle, but I understand where the compression came from, as far as like when the law was passed, and then there were, you know, the district applied for a waiver, and that was not successful, and then so now we're here to put everything together. How many candidates for curriculum programs do we have at this point in time?
2.
Still,
Yeah, 2
still
resources.
And there's like 1 in reserve. Should both those 2 not satisfy?
So it's interesting that you should ask that, because we just had that conversation today with the committee.
Okay.
What we don't want is for anyone to feel pressured with these 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to be sending out a survey, as we discussed with the subcommittee, an anonymous survey, asking some questions of the committee. And if the committee in fact feels that neither is just right for our kids, then we will continue searching. This timeline, as Phil said, is flexible, because what we don't want to do is make a decision in a hasty way. We want to make sure that our teachers and our admin believe strongly in what resources we use to help our kids learn to read. So that timeline might change, but this is our hope right now.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Adrian?
Yeah, I would just like to offer that the timeline is very condensed, and it's more condensed than I feel comfortable with as well. But the option to that would be to stick with the same core curriculum that we're using now, which we know is beneficial to a smaller group of students. So if we don't have a new curriculum, core curriculum for next September, there's going to be additional learning loss, and we really want to try to avoid that.
Understood and agreed. You know, the effort to get this done as soon as possible. I can appreciate and I support, you know, what has to be
But
done.
without skipping
Right,
any
Right.
detail.
yeah, just do it fast, as
Right.
fast as we can.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
And as you see, Dave is not here, and I've informed you that he let me know today that he is going to be resigning, and I did get a letter, and I passed it on to you. We did have a good conversation with him. He had indicated that things were getting really stressful, and some of the, expectations were really immense. He also has a family issue that he has to take care of, and so there's a move to another end of the state, so he knew that was coming too, and I think that got sped up for him as well. So I think there's been a few things. And then, of course, there was the town council meeting, and I think that really firmed up his decision. But I have to say that he is still with us. He will be there when we have the auditors come back on Wednesday just to do their double check that that was indicated. And he will be there, present. He's let all of his staff know. And Lori is supporting them as well. And I reached out to Learn, because Learn does have resources and they sent in a consultant today to meet with Dave and me and, the district team. This Julie Pendleton, has served for 30 years in the role as a finance director and can help support in this transition, and so will Dave. He basically said he'll do whatever he can do and, to keep us going, but it will mean that we'll have to post the position. And I've got everybody, including CASBO, Learn, looking to see, because those positions like superintendents, it's very difficult to find finance directors, so especially who have had experience in school finances. So, but we'll do our due diligence, and he will be meeting with us to talk about, this year's budget, next year's budget. And he gave me some kind of talking points even to guide you through, with the actual object code summary. And so I'd like to have you refer to the object code summary. And I actually highlighted a few things that we've really known about that have been trending in a high way and continue to trend in a high way. And one of the things I had said was, if you look at number 4, salary substitutes, several of you had actually brought that to my attention and said that it looks like it's up. And with some of the health claims, significant health claims and illnesses, surgeries, we've had to replace teachers with substitutes more than we've ever done before. So you see it's almost a direct correlation with the health care. And when you have, you need a certified teacher in for longer than 90 months. So some of those indicators are those health cares that are in between what number and what number, Lori, like up to $200,000?
It's 50,000 to 200.
And that's the uptick that we've seen
Yes.
in our claims. And so that does require someone to be out for a period of time. So that's why this is also up. And then, of course, the health insurance we've known about. And, we've discussed at length this year and going into next year. And so, I asked this question out loud: how could we have better predicted? And really, annually, Anthem gives us a prediction, but it's only once a year. And then, of course, with what has happened, and it's not, just prior boards, but the expectation from the town side and, from the council and the RTM is to use health savings reserve and to offset costs to get some of those lower budgets that we were seeing, the zeros, the ones. And so I think those were healthy times, and we could do that. That worked out okay because, we weren't experiencing, 1.3 million a month or every other month in health claims, and now we are. And so when you do that, you offset, there was only 700,000 per month, for instance, in our accounts for this. And so we're really dealing with this now. And I know that we've talked about it at finance, we've talked about it at the COW. So that is impacting us in these final couple months. And remember that we only had health claims to February. I don't believe we've gotten March. So we still have March, April, May, and June. And then, of course, we know that transportation is up, and that's also been a hard thing to predict. We know the prices, but just looking at athletics was kind of a surprise at that uptick in cost, and then field trips, and I know that the principals have tried to be careful, but we have had kids going on field trips, and they've had to account for that in their budgets. And then I'll take you down to other supplies or facility and maintenance, and we do know that Sam has had almost every month some kind of a property damage, a truck, we've had the floods at the schools, we've had septic back up at one point, and then we also had the cyber attack. So all of those things, we do have insurance, and 2 of the insurances have come through. We're still waiting, I think, on the cyber attack to come, that number. I think that was $100,000. So we're just monitoring it ever so closely. Dave will be meeting with us, and we definitely have to have a facilities meeting and a COW to look at this year with this. It says that there's $4 million to get us to the end of the year, 4.3, but we do know that some of these things could put us over, and we will have to go to the town. We've talked a lot about the excess revenue that has come in the name of education this year. It's about $1.4 million. We had thought that if we could put some of that towards the health account and then some of that to cover us till the end of the year, that would be really terrific. But I think we need to have a better number, and then we need to vote on that. And so that will come back to the board with charts and graphs so you can really see and analyze the situation more closely. I want to bring that to you, and then have your support to help us work through this together. So,
Obviously, we're all very disappointed in what's happened today, but I just want to say that I personally believe that in addition to posting the position, that we should find a certified interim to start ASAP while we're going through the process of selecting someone permanently.
I would feel comfortable with that too. I need that.
And I think if we go to CASBO, maybe find someone, who's retired that would be willing to come back on a part-time contract basis to go into the office. That's what I'd like to see. And then, I would like to know what can you do at this point, or what can the board do to control costs in the current year to make sure?
So I talked to Dave about that, and I've sent out a message to all my principals about freezing the budget. Dave had talked about that, for when he got back. So I talked to him and said I need to do that today. And so all discretionary funds are frozen. Principals will outline the end year expenses that need to happen, like graduation and diplomas. And the principals will come to the assistant superintendent or to the superintendent to get anything authorized. So we'll be monitoring that ever so closely. So just know that will be happening. Already, the principals have taken 30% of their site budget off, so we've controlled that. You can kind of see that the site budget, still there is some funding, so we're holding on to that. And they've been wonderful about it. Even when we brainstormed about how do you get to $1 million, thinking about next year, and then another $1 million, and then they talked about how they've lived on 70%, and if they needed to do that again, they would. And so they had really good, honest conversations. I'm going to bring you some of the things that they said so you can look at it for tomorrow's meeting. And then I want you to help support to figure out what other things. And I heard Portia Bordelon say we don't want it to be on the backs of our students, but you all have already done your due diligence, and I tried to say this out loud to the town council. We've already cut 4.5 million. That was more than any of us wanted to cut originally, and that is a lot of staff. That's big things. And you saw the parent square that came out, and just telling parents that we're really down to so very little. We're really kind of, so to think about these cuts is just, it's just not gonna be the Groton we know and love today, if that has to happen. And it's gonna be children in larger classes. It's gonna be programs that we're gonna have to give up. I talked to Mark Romano about athletics. You know, he has $1 million budget for athletics and extracurriculars. Do I want to touch that? No. Do you want to touch that? No. Preschool pre-K or pre-K TK, do I want to touch that? No. I mean, those are things that really are for kids. Everything we looked at has students in mind. There's nothing that doesn't have students somewhere in mind. So I'm going to need your support. We're going to have to do this together. It's not going to be easy, but I do think parents are going to come out and community members are going to come out to the RTM and talk about how this is just not feasible. So that's what we need, is the community to come together on this.
And one of the counselors pointed out that if it weren't for the $3.2 million increase in health care, we'd be coming to them with just about a zero budget request this year. And, you know, we are self-funded along with the town, meaning that we, rather than being in a fully paid plan with a large group, the size of our group means that bad claims could put us over the edge, and I think that's what's happening here. It's being driven by healthcare.
I know you had said to actively recruit for a interim finance director. Prior to him leaving, he mentioned that he was short-staffed for 2 individuals. I would like us to get 2 temporary financial analysts on board
We
as
did
well.
hire for one of those positions.
Perfect. So then we just
The
need
other
one more.
position is there, but I think that this was really very bad news for her. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, so I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that that's covered too, because having a finance director without any legs, so to say, is, you know,
And you're right, that makes
So-
it even more challenging.
more
You're
challenging,
right.
so I would like that. In regards to, I know you said that hopefully the parents come out for the RTM. Whether they do or they don't, I know most of them, I've been sort of watching social media. I think we're going to have good representation, but we need to come up with a plan just in case, and I don't want us to put our heads in the sand and hope for the best. So we need to come up with a plan of where are we going to cut, where are we going to proceed, and maybe we work through that tomorrow so that we can come up with that $2.4 million, whether we execute on it or not. That has to be seen, but we can't just hope.
So I did meet with the admin council. They did give some ideas. So I have some ideas. They're not set in stone, but it gives us a starting point
Yep.
to say, you know, yay or nay, or.
Exactly.
And if you feel like I do after putting it all together over the weekend with their notes, I was sickened. I have cried.
I know, but thank you. Don't,
Are you all set?
yeah, that's it.
I didn't mean to jump in.
Yeah.
To the chair, I guess, at the town council meeting, I definitely just want to express my gratitude for my fellow board members that were able to attend. I think it was a good show of solidarity to be
was.
there, and
I thank you too.
we all have different perspectives on this budget, and I thought we all kind of proposed our arguments for the budget in our own particular ways, and I think that it gave a good nuanced understanding for the community, at least. Unfortunately, it seemed like the message was lost on the council, the majority of the council. So I guess one of the things I wanted to just clarify, there seemed to be some confusion on the terms. Some of the counselors were confused by the health reserve and the health corridor. And I was hoping maybe we could just kind of help the community understand that, you know, at this current state, we're self-funded, which means that, you know, we need to pay out. So in any insurance situation, you know, a person who's going to get service would put down some sort of copay. What the Board of Ed is talking about being self-funded means that we are paying the other part of that claim.
Yeah.
So, and if I understand correctly, please correct me if I have a misunderstanding, but we have the reserve and then we have the corridor. And the corridor is the actual pipeline that pays the claims. That's the actual liquid money we need to pay the claims whenever they're filed. Is that correct?
That's the emergency that by law we have to have set aside should we need to pay the additional claims. So the health reserve is on top of that, and that's the money that has been a little more flexible, and that's what we've dipped into in order to get this budget approved in the past. But the corridor is something that you really have to be careful
Yeah,
with.
we would never suggest dipping into the corridor voluntarily. That's 25% of claims, over and above the operating account where we're paying the claims out of. And Lori can correct me if I'm wrong. But we're putting money into an account to pay claims. The 25% corridor is the insurance against that being depleted. The reserve is what has accumulated in prior years from claims that have been closed. And in good years, believe it or not, that reserve kept going up to the point where we were told by a prior finance director, and again, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was Cindy Landry, was requiring us to use, requiring us to use excess reserve, meaning if we were an insurance company, it'd be profit. Use that to pay down expenses, but we never suggested going into the corridor.
Okay.
And in addition, the town purchases a backup insurance plan, a stop-loss plan, that if any claim exceeds 200,000?
200,000, that's correct.
Any claim exceeds 200,000, then we stop paying it out of the operating funds, and the reinsurance company kicks in and pays the rest of the claim to the maximum of the policy. However, a decision was made, and again, the board doesn't really have control over this. Policies were purchased, stopgap policies, with lasered claims, which meant that the insurance company could say they could pick out claims. Lori, was it started with one?
Yeah, we started with, I believe, two.
Two?
Yeah, there was a change in the, I'll just clarify, there's a change in the marketplace, in the stop-loss market about a year ago, where all the carriers basically came out with this claim lasering methodology. So no matter where you went or who you bought the stop-loss from, they all were gonna laser claims. And they'll target specific high-dollar claims that they think are likely to occur, and then charge us back for those.
And basically, now all of a sudden, the 200,000 limit doesn't apply. Now, on those claims that they choose, the limit goes to,
We had some that were between 400 and 600,000, so they basically increased the stop-loss limit on those individual claims.
But how many could they do per year?
They limit, they only do a small number per year. We've been able to negotiate that after they lasered the first couple of claims, we've been able to negotiate that they wouldn't impose any new lasers for, we're on the second year period now. So at least we don't have any, we've capped any new exposure so that we don't have those additional lasers coming in.
this is why over the years we've asked to look into the state plan and other plans. And we've always been told, first of all, we're linked with the town, so we can't just go out on our own. They did an analysis, and it actually at that time, in good times, it made sense to stay with the self-insured plan. And that's something I think maybe the town decided to do in the 90s.
I don't remember, we weren't here.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
to
the
create
history.
this self-funded versus going to a group like an Anthem that can absorb this volatility. When we don't think of ourselves as a small group, but we're a very small group in the insurance pool. And that volatility, we're paying for that now. And so we may be forced to cut programs and possibly staff to basically keep our promise to our employees of health insurance.
Just a couple questions about that. And this may be a thing that we dive into deeper tomorrow night,
Mhm.
but as far as what is it that links us to the town? Is there a document? Is it a shared policy? What legal or financial mechanism is it that seems to be such a barrier for us to break off and do our own thing that makes sense for our organization?
Yeah, I would say, my understanding is a shared policy, so we are all in the same group policy with Anthem. So currently, Anthem's the carrier. So that's something that we would have to navigate with the town to start quoting plans and programs separately and combined, and then see where the advantages and disadvantages are. Yeah.
And from what I understand, I mean, as far as getting quotes for the state plan, I mean, someone who knows all the numbers of the demographics within our district of all the employees that would be on a plan, I think could just call the comptroller and open a line of communication to get a quote of what the state plan would be for a comparative sake.
We requested that.
We
through
have
the-
been, and we compared, the last comparison that was done was in 2020, the last plan year. More advantageous for the board, less advantageous for the town to go to the state plan is what that demonstrated. Overall, a total cost increase to the healthcare program. But when you split that up, there were different impacts. We've asked them to give us a comparison of the 2024 renewal numbers to the 2024 state plan, and we're just waiting for that analysis to come in. And then as soon as we have it, we'll certainly share it with the board and engage in those conversations about where we want to go. We've asked for a few other things from the consultant as well, including a fully insured quote, so we can see what that looks like in comparison to what we're experiencing with the self-insured plan too.
Right, fully insured means that we have someone else as the umbrella.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it basically means you're no longer self-funded and you pay a healthcare premium, and then they absorb all the risk. Yeah, that's right.
But we have heard good things about the state plan in more recent times.
And I've heard that as well, that more and more municipalities and boards are going with that, so that plan is strengthening.
That's true.
It
yes.
started out small and was a little shaky, but, everything needs a startup period. So I
Yeah,
think we're
yeah,
getting there.
agree. Certainly, it's getting a lot of municipal movement these days.
Yeah. So is that something we anticipate we could possibly be ready to jump over onto for the next budget cycle?
I would hope so. I mean, we're going to do the analysis over the next few months. We've indicated to our consultant that we really needed to have all of that information by this summer, so we could know before we even started the budget season what our plans might look like.
And making that kind of a systemic change, I know that it would be, there's a process that would have to occur. Say if we don't want to go, if the town wants to remain doing what they're doing, but we want to make the change, that's a whole procedure of how to disentangle, because we're co-signers on the
I
same
would-
document?
Yeah, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just saying, yes, I'm sure we would need to engage the town so that they could plan accordingly as well, because if we choose to go in another direction, they're gonna have to quote options that meet their needs. So we'll want them, we are working with them to do these quotes simultaneously so that they're engaged, they're in the loop. I've openly shared that we want to look at the state plan, and we really have some challenges on the board side that we have to look at more options. So we've kept that dialogue open, and we've been working with the town directly on that. But I agree. it'll
I'm
probably be
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I did message on here, and Mrs. Koshny just messaged on here as well. We cannot hear. It sounds like you guys are all in a tunnel. It's cutting in and out. It goes blurry, and then you can't hear mics at all. So I just, if we could, I don't know if you guys can take a break and figure this out. I watch a lot of meetings, but I can barely hear what anybody's saying at all. So I don't know who's there running the show for the media, but for folks at home, I mean, this has got to be an open transcript.
Portia, is the microphones for the front table folks better for you than the ones on the side? Can you hear us on the front, in the front?
Everything, you sound like you're in a tunnel.
Really?
Very far, far away. Some people we couldn't hear. I couldn't hear Jen White at all when she spoke. And then it does this blurry screen thing, cuts out. My internet's fine. I went on my cell phone. My cell phone is giving me the same reception. And then Mrs. Koshny just messaged and said she can't hear anything either. So I don't know what's going on, but there's definitely an audio issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, anything from your end? Are you seeing, is Clint around to?
In the booth, it sounds all right, and we've discussed it with Clint. It seems like it's beyond our control.
So we're hearing that we sound like we're in a tunnel.
I heard that. If we could make sure the mics are pointed right at your mouth, and you could use your teacher voice, that would be great. I can hear most of you, not all of you. We have seen some cutoffs, but it's gotten better over time. But Ms. Mordelon was right. There was some at the beginning, and there are a few of you who are faint or not. We're trying to adjust the volume and levels to balance each of you out and so forth. But if you could do your best, please point it right at your mouth and use your teacher voice to project. I think we need to keep going. It is audible, but there have been some issues.
I'm wondering if these side mics are not picking up as well, too.
Lori was loud and clear.
Oh, she was?
Yep.
It's not just the mics. The screen actually goes fuzzy a little bit, almost like you're looking through a lens that's not clear. So there's definitely some type of connection issue.
So, Dr. Kennedy, it sounds like there's some connectivity issue as well?
And should these side mics be turned off? Are they picking up?
I've been monitoring this. I have not experienced any video issues.
Just bring it over there just in case. This was working and the students.
We'll take it.
Lori's mic is totally on.
So maybe just bring it up closer when we have the health care,
I think we should proceed
health insurance.
to be conscious of speaking directly into the mic.
Okay, so everybody speak into the mic. Use your teacher voice or your big voice. And Lori, you too. I think we have now the health insurance dashboard next.
Yeah, sure. So just a couple points on the dashboard. The February claims, I think you mentioned some of these in your update, Susan, but the February claims continue to run higher than the anticipated budget amount at 1.264 million, mainly contributed by kind of our what we call kind of our mid-level large claims, not quite large claims, but mid-level claims, and those are in the 50 to 200,000 range. So there's definitely a significant increase in those claims. That dollar value increased 23%. So we do anticipate March claims soon, probably within the next 7 to 9 days. And we'll have an update for the board as soon as we have March claims available.
And I would just like to say,
Just going back a little bit, I would like to kind of echo what Ian was saying. I really think that we need to get our own pricing for the board on what healthcare is going to cost us, because it sounds like we may be pushed into a healthcare situation that's less advantageous to us, and we may be effectively subsidizing the town's healthcare, which maybe that's okay, but the town should know that the Board of Ed is being accommodating their budget by doing that. So I would appreciate like having some real numbers on maybe what the state plan or some private plans that are kind of in line with what's in the contracts now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have asked them to split out the pricing so that we could see the very easy to do with the state plan. They provide us rates, and we can compare those to the actual rates for both groups. So we've asked it to have it split out. Yeah.
Is it possible to get pricing to start at, say, mid-year? So for July 1, if that makes a difference for our 2025 budget?
You say mid-year, July 1, do you mean January 1?
Or January 1,
Yeah,
I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we can certainly make that inquiry. Yeah.
Jen had a question, but I just want to tag on that real quick, is that the concern about that is double deductibles for employees. So,
If they're you're talking about
If we
when
move
somebody has
mid-year.
you move mid-year. But I think we should bring in MDG.
Yeah, we should
insurance
talk to someone,
consultant.
because I don't, like,
Yeah.
I'm on a teacher
Yep.
state plan personally, and we don't have a base deductible in the plan that I have.
Okay.
So I think that there may be plans out there that don't have that high deductible.
Jen?
More of like a noticing, so total plan enrollment.
Can you just speak up a little, Jen?
Oh, total plan enrollment, right, from 2021 to 2024, let's say roughly a decrease of 100 individuals. So if we look at who's left in our plans, they may be the individuals who can't get a better plan, let's just say, through like maybe their spouse, their significant other. And so our pool population may be worse off than when we were like 3 or 4 years ago. So that's something also to consider, like our pool base. And so that on top of higher insurance costs could be driving some of the increases in '24 because our population base may not be as healthy, especially in some of the other items that we looked at where there's like absenteeism was high. Also, considering our current budget situation, if people think that they may no longer have insurance going forward, that I have a feeling March, April, and may actually be higher compared to prior year trends. And that's just me guessing. So I don't know if you're going to talk about the back page, or should I just wait?
No,
Okay. So we were never informed or information was shared regarding the bottom right-hand reconciliation of versus corridor, where our reserve amount, right, is 5.6 million. We had to hold 3.6 million. So our available reserve is 1.9. The usage was 2.7, and so we need to dip into the corridor. I would like an explanation on that, and how did that happen without us being informed, whether it was last month or the month prior? If you have any information on that.
My understanding, we'll have Dave give us some clarification, but my understanding is we dipped into the corridor during the month of February. That's my understanding, February claims. You know, as he prepares a more detailed analysis on the object code summary and kind of where we are for the year, he'll speak to this issue as part of the healthcare line.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions on health insurance? Dean?
Yeah, it's not so much a question. I was just trying to figure out, you know, the issue is, you know, when did you see the train coming? Did you see the train coming? And I recall two things. I'm just going by memory, of course, and that is that Dave has been giving us a heads up that the healthcare has been trending higher. The last thing that I remember him saying was, well, hopefully there'll be a shift downwards, but we'll see. He didn't lay odds on that either way, and that hasn't happened. Now, February's number is, if you look at 21, 22, 23, 24, February's number is, not by much, the second highest number. February 2023 was a little higher than this February. But the 21 to 22 average monthly claim costs came to $989. 22-23 average monthly claim costs came to $972. So that looked, in line or even better. So far, we're averaging over, well over $1 million in 23-24. That differential is about $71,000 a month. If you multiply that by 12, if the trend continues, the averages continue, that means we'll be $856. That's an $856,000 surprise, over last year. So I don't know what we would have known last year planning it out, other than, gee, I hope the account is fat enough to handle surprises. But I don't know that we knew last year when we budgeted that we were going to see this kind of an increase. But yeah, now that we're here and things are not as, I think fingers were crossed last time we were talking about this, that February wouldn't turn out to be so bad. It might make up for a lot. I suppose you could say the same thing for March, but who knows at this point. I'm open to exploring all sorts of things for this one. One thing I would like to point out, I know the Board of Education, superintendent, the schools in general are governed by a whole different set of statutes. It's a state function to educate the kids. It's been delegated to local boards of education with some state funding, et cetera. We often talk about the town and the schools. And I wonder, I think of the town, I think of the schools as the Department of Education, the way there's a Department of Public Works and a Department of Parks and Rec. We are the town. I know we use that as a convenient term. There's us and the town. And how do we divorce from the town on certain aspects? Or how do we combine services? But we are a town department. These are our town schools. Legally, I'm not sure. So a teacher, for example, are they a town employee or a board employee? I don't know. Is there literally an agreement with Anthem, for example, with one signature, or does it require two signatures? The chairs and the mayors? That I don't know. So I am open to this distinction, but I have a feeling that there probably shouldn't be a distinction made, except for, budget purposes, when we want to let the other public body, our fellow officers, know that they should be giving us credit for one thing or the other, bearing some cost or, getting more money in for whatever reason. I'll start to philosophize a lot more, so I'll stop here.
Thank you, Lori. Next, we have the utilities report.
So Sam, I don't know if you can speak to this, but when I look at the electric cost over time in the past several years, it kind of surprises me that it's coming in a little less, but we haven't finished out the year. And then natural gas and even oil. I know that we have different schools having different, some have multiple resources of energy costs. Everybody's got the electricity. Some schools have the natural gas and the oil. Some are gonna be having solar panels that will hopefully help support our energy cost. So, but you can see that they're even trending in the yellow for 24. There's an uptick in natural gas. It's actually a little less for electric, which surprises me, and less for oil, but we have really moved over more, I think, to natural gas, but I just want you to confirm that, Sam.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm looking at this, but see if I can get back down to there for just a second. Well, I'd like to say that the reason that the oil consumption is lower is because we had a better winter than we had previously, but that would be counter to the idea that the natural gas is showing higher rates. So I don't have an answer for that, other than the fact that I can look into it and see. but we do have more buildings on natural gas than we had
Yeah,
previously.
can you tell me which buildings are on the natural gas, which have both?
Well, Fitch High School is on both
Both.
fuel oil and also natural gas,
Right.
because it's also an emergency center.
Our 3 new buildings, though, Thames River,
Yeah,
Mystic
all
River,
3 new
and
buildings
Groton.
are on natural gas.
And they are big buildings.
They are what?
They are bigger buildings.
They
too.
are.
Yeah.
But this is also higher over the previous year, which doesn't compute with the weather that we had, so I'll have to look into that a little bit deeper.
Okay.
Any questions?
Nope.
So next, we're back to Sam with update on school facilities.
Yes, good evening
Good
again.
evening.
I wish I hadn't done that, but I always see people reading their notes from their iPhone. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done it like I always did in big print on paper, but so bear with me a little bit. So at the Groton Middle School, if you've been up there at night and driven by, you may have noticed, if you look closely, that the field lights at the middle school are operational now. I think we started on Tuesday night, it could have been Wednesday night of last week. But you'll also have to look pretty closely because the spillover of light is very insignificant. It's very little beyond the field itself. It is directed to the field, and the only other light that you will see is just the light bulbs that happen to be pointing in that direction for the most part. So those are operational, and Mark Romano, the athletic director, started night games last week. We're able to control those through our iPhones, and one of the requirements being in the flight path here for Groton Airport is that we shut those lights off 15 minutes after the completion of an activity or game. And so we have that implemented with our groundskeeper, our maintenance coordinator, and Mark Romano, the athletic director. So they'll be working on that together to make sure that that is done. We're also, when it comes to the solar work at those 2 schools, at both Mystic River and Groton Middle School, is done. We are still, I told you previously that we have sent in a request for the requirements, and the funding has been changed since we first started that project, and there is potential for some additional reimbursement, so we still haven't heard back from them yet on that, but so we're just waiting for those final figures to come in for that, to close that out. The project at Charles Barnum School, the roof and the solar project, are on hold, as you know. Scoreboards at the middle school, we're awaiting funding. I talked to Dave about it last week, but I will have to figure out exactly where we're going to go from here because we need to request from the town the funding for that. John Burt sent us the information so that we can forward that to the town to request that funding to get the scoreboards up for both the artificial field and the softball field. We're also working with the Green Bank on solar for Fitch High School, and also more at Mystic River Magnet School. The idea is to have carports with solar panels on them. So we've got a draft review on that, and we're hoping that the numbers work when the bidding goes out in August. There's a bid cycle in August for the Green Bank, so hopefully the numbers work. They didn't work the last time. We made some adjustments to it, and we'll be waiting to hear from the Green Bank as to whether we make it in this next round. That, again, will significantly impact the electrical invoices at those 2 schools. maybe the next time we meet, I can get those, the percentages to you as to how much it would take off, reduce the electrical bills on those two buildings.
Jen?
I don't recall, like, if Mystic River and Fitch is with Groton Utilities or Eversource, like for the solar panels.
I'm sorry,
Fitch High School and Mystic River are with Eversource, aren't they?
Eversource?
Utilities is on the city side?
Eversource.
Eversource, oh, perfect, so we don't need to
Fitch High
lie.
School, that's correct.
Okay,
The
perfect.
Charles Barnum project is in the Groton Utilities area, and that's why we have to have permission from Groton Utilities in order to put those up there.
Perfect, thank you. And just a follow-up, the lampposts at at Groton Middle, was that ever repaired?
I'm having a little difficulty.
The
here.
lamp post at Groton Middle that was hit, was that repaired? It was like from several,
The electrical connections were repaired, but we haven't taken that's going to need to have, we'll have to do that when school is not in session, because we're going to have to take up a pretty wide area, and parking is limited at that school.
Okay.
So the lighting is working, but that pole is still.
Still down?
Not plumb.
okay, perfect. And there was also a basketball at Charles Barnum that was also hit by a maintenance truck. Is that going to be repaired for the next school year?
I thought that was repaired already.
It was
but
repaired
I'll
already?
have to double check on it, but I'm
Perfect.
pretty sure that was repaired.
Thank you.
Ian?
So just a quick follow-up on the Charles Barnum situation. You're saying Groton Utilities needs to grant permission in order for the project to proceed? Is that what's causing the hold?
Let's see if I can get this correct. In order for us to have solar panels on that roof, we would have to own the panels because it's within their territory. So that's a little bit different than the PPA that we have with Eversource on the other schools. So we're still working through that.
And that's their internal policy, Groton Utilities' internal policy, or is it like a state law for, or is there, what's?
I don't know
what's
the exact
driving
answer to that, but I would say that it's Groton Utilities has the right to produce or offer the electricity within their territory, and that school would be in their territory. So by us producing electricity, we would need their permission to do that.
Okay. But right now, that is the holdup, that Groton Utilities policies regarding solar
no, I
panels are
think-
not conducive to the plan that we were going to move forward with?
I don't think that's the only holdup. The other holdup was that we needed an approval of the ed specs, and so therefore that has been removed from the agenda, and I believe that's where the holdup is right now.
Because I remember when we talked about this in the Cal meeting, there was a sense of urgency to accelerate to get this thing done before.
It's not going to happen this year.
Yeah, so that whole
Yeah.
idea of an accelerated timeline is out the window.
It won't happen this summer for sure.
Okay, thank you. Which actually, well, there was some possible funding at risk for that, right? Was there like a grant? I forget, what was the sense of urgency to get it done before the fall?
I think just
The urgency was to get it done while school was not in
Yeah.
session.
Oh, okay.
It
But all the other
less
grants
disruption.
and-
You could do a roof during school, but there is noise that's made drilling into the roof, et cetera, so.
But as far as the CIP, we do still have time, because there's 5 years, I think,
Yes.
once it's approved, right?
Right. So the funding's not at risk due to the delay, it's just
Not at this time, no.
the ideal window for doing the construction was the summertime. Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll go to committee reports. So I forgot to mention that Mr. Schulman is not here tonight because he's observing Passover. Would Ian, would you be prepared to discuss the last policy meeting?
Well, no.
Okay, sorry.
We do have a policy, though, that we're trying to get through, which is on graduation with the state requirement for, the new course that is required on
Financial literacy.
financial literacy. I was trying to think, financial literacy. So that's on there for us.
Right, so yeah, we reviewed that, and that was coming back, because they were supposed to do some research on a couple, no, the graduation requirements, that was fine.
Yeah.
There was another policy about the.
But we haven't had a chance to meet in policy yet on
Right.
it, so we were going to do that, but we have a special meeting instead.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so no, I was not prepared to give a breakdown of the policy committee, so I
Okay.
would not feel comfortable.
I only see one on for tonight, and that'll be as a second reading. Curriculum was somewhat discussed. Is there anything else that,
I don't think so, I think.
You wanted to add?
Unless Dr. Piazza or Mr. Johnson had something.
I think we're good.
okay. Finance and facilities.
Yes, we met on April 2nd, and we discussed, just a reminder here, well, Ian's proposal. Ian laid out for us his thoughts and handed out materials on on establishing a non-lapsing fund. I don't remember, Jen, how far did we get? What was the next step on that one? Someone was going to look into, I think you were going to look
I have
into
a
it.
homework project to do.
That's it.
Yes.
It was you.
I'm thinking we might need that non-lapsing fund sooner than later.
You have to have money to put into it.
And money for
Right.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Yeah. Otherwise, we've got pretty much a Christmas fund account. We reviewed end-of-year unexpended funds. And we had a report from Dave, and we had a report from Sam regarding the Charles Barnum roof replacement and the Project Ed specs for the, what you just talked about. That's what was on the agenda, and that's what was discussed.
Okay.
And you want, Jen, your point, you can add.
Anything to add?
No, we're all set.
Bev can add too if she wants, she's here.
I don't think she's on.
Yeah. Do we have Bev online?
She was online.
She was online?
She was before, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, she.
So I'm going to ask, Bev, did you want to discuss Learn?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, hold on a second. All right, Learn Board of Directors met on April 18th, and the superintendent from Salem School District, Brian Hendrickson, he was the speaker, and he talked about the challenge of a K-8 system, because they have limited funding, their budget goes to referendum. He only had a 1% budget increase over the past 10 years. They have a 20-year cooperative agreement with East Lyme to send their Salem students to East Lyme High School. He said even with the budget problem, he was able to put in a gifted and talented program, and then there was a discussion between the board members about gifted and talented programs, and what school districts had them, which school districts don't have gifted and talented programs. Then Kate Erickson, the executive director of Learn, she talked about how many people they hired over the last year. They hired 58 people. They have 27 vacancies. And then they talked about the lottery system, like 323 students, people, families applied for the friendship school. Out of that, 230 were accepted. For the regional magnet school, multicultural magnet school, 174 applicants, 104 were accepted. And for marine science magnet school, 339 applied, only 69 were accepted. And for Three Rivers, 73 applications and 59 were accepted. And then the Director of Teaching and Learning, they talked about a program that they have for I Choose Success. And come to find out, Groton has that program. Groton and New London both have the I Choose Success program. And it's combining virtual reality-based training with employability skills. And it's funded by Electric Boat, General Dynamics Electric Boat. They fund this program. And maybe, Susan, we can hear more about that program as a board. It seemed like a great program.
We have several. I think I wrote about it in board notes, our visit to EB and all the different possible partnerships that are going on across the district. I would love to be able to bring that back and talk about something like that.
Yeah, because it's like the virtual reality part helps students explore different career pathways. And they have over 120 simulations of different jobs and careers. It sounds like a great program. And that's about it. I won't go on and on, but that's it.
Thank you, Beverly. Ian, did
Anytime.
Yeah, Athletic Fields Task Force met on April 18th.
Okay.
And they confirmed receipt of the blueprints.
Good.
So that circle is closed, so thank you, everybody, for helping out with that. And so they're discussed, they didn't have a full quorum, but they didn't need to take any votes, so it was mostly just an informational session. But they identified a timeline where they will need a full quorum to move at an accelerated pace. Their goal is to have their plans together and the designs presented to the public in due time so that they could be on the ballot with a referendum in November, is the goal, with a price quote and everything for the facilities at Fitch.
Excellent.
And then also, there's a presentation of, that timeline, and then the needs assessment and the existing facilities evaluations, which actually I can forward that email around to everyone. I don't think it made it to the whole board. No.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll bounce it out.
Thank you. I know at one time the Athletics Field Committee had a change in who could vote in the hopes of making it more possible for a quorum. I wonder if they might consider revisiting that, and I don't know who controls that.
I'll send an email out and
Yeah.
make an inquiry.
Yeah, like, you should be a voting member so that it contributes toward a quorum, and who else is there that's ex officio, so to speak, that really should be like,
Right.
maybe we could look
Maybe
into
they could
that.
figure out an alternate status or something.
Right.
So that the ex officios that are there, they could vote in order to form a quorum if needed.
Right.
But otherwise not.
Right.
Yeah.
Something to look into. Next is the consent agenda. I'm sorry. Trails and Library, as Matthew's not here, he'll report on that next month, unless you have something.
I noticed that the State Council on Military Children is not on this agenda, and I'm wondering why.
Did it meet?
No,
We're only putting meetings on now that meet. that have
oh, I
met.
see.
So
that
when it
would-
meets, probably next month.
I think I got
May.
an email that said it's going to be quite late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At one point, we were putting about 20 different things on here that didn't meet, and it sounded like
Yeah.
we were missing a bunch of meetings, but we
Fine.
we cut it down to what's actually meeting.
Thank you.
So, but when that comes up, Ian and yourself
I'll make sure.
will know.
That was
all
my
right.
principal voice.
So next is the consent agenda, and all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion. Points of clarification will be allowed. So I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda, moved by Andrea. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that passes unanimously. Next, old business. Let's see. Ian, since you're on the committee, would you like to read that motion?
Sure, yeah. I'll make a motion to approve policy P6146, graduation requirements, as a second reading.
Do I hear a second? Seconded by Jen. Any discussion? Again, this is a second reading, so we have discussed this before, but any other?
It's a half credit of financial literacy. You can see it on page 3 of 8, and it's going to be a 0.5 credit. And it counts as one of the humanities, a part of humanities. But it can be taught by a math teacher. I think there's several certified positions that can teach this course. Business currently does, so.
Is that a
It is-
requirement?
It's now a requirement for 0.5.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? If not, the motion on the floor is to approve policy P6146, graduation requirements, as a second reading. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Was that an abstention, Beverly?
No, that was aye.
Okay.
That was an aye.
All right, thank you.
Okay, good.
So that passes unanimously. And then, new business. Jen, would you read the motion for item 1 under new business?
Sure. Motion to approve pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 10-151, that the Groton Board of Education non-renew the teacher contracts for non-tenured teachers who would expect to achieve tenure in the years 2025, 2026, 2027, and 2028. It is further moved that the superintendent of schools be directed to communicate this action of the board in writing to the above identified teachers, and further, that the superintendent of schools be authorized to respond on behalf of the Board of Education to any questions which may be forthcoming from the above identified teachers or their representative pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 10-151.
Do I hear a second for discussion?
Second.
Seconded by Andrea. And did you want to explain?
Well, just, this
or-
is something that we do annually. By law, we're required. And it's really mostly driven by either performance or the budget. And so, I don't know if, Laura, you'd like to explain, because I know that you usually take the driver's seat with this one, but we do communicate to the teachers. Actually, if it's a performance, we follow the state plan or the plan for working with our teachers, and they are, you know, aware, and they are working all year. So that's something that, you know, our principals work closely, our administrators work closely with our teachers to support and evaluate. That's a big part of their job. And then we knew already some of the things that we had already taken to get to our 7.91. So that includes those positions that, and there were a handful, so.
Yeah, there's a very small number that we're talking about with this requirement. And it's not unusual that we might have individuals on a one-year assignment, let's say. We have a couple of them this year. They knew coming in it was a one-year assignment, but we have the customary duty to give them this letter. So there's a couple of those, a couple of performance issues, and there's only one budgetary notification required, because we've been able to move some things around and address some of the cuts through attrition. So, and we're only dealing with the budget cuts up until the 7.91%. We're not talking about any staff beyond that at this point in time, because no decisions have been made, so.
What happens if there are further reductions?
If there are further reductions for budgetary reasons, we'll have to notify that staff as soon as something is finalized. And then we would provide customary letters at that point in time. But the statutory requirement for performance, one-year contracts, the few things that I've talked about, those are required May 1, especially since we already know about them. We do have to give them that notification.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you do work with the teachers' union on this?
That's correct. They're
and-
well-informed. We work collaboratively on this so that they are available to these individuals. They provide assistance to these individuals.
And the president of the teachers' union is actually online, so I'd like to offer if she has anything that she'd like to say, or if any board members have questions for her afterward.
I agree with what Lori said. We work collaboratively with this process. Teachers are aware of options, and this is a state statute that has to be followed.
Thank you, Beth.
Can I ask a question? I'm asking a
But we
question.
do collaborate. We are there to support the teachers through this process.
Thank you.
Dr. Ackerman, did you have a question?
Yeah.
I'm asking a question that I probably should know the answer to, but I'm wondering if anybody in the public listening in knows of this. I don't know if, I guess my question is, has there been any changes since I left the staff in Groton? But when I came aboard, this letter was given to every non-tenured teacher. So this is something that we all expected, and in all my years on staff, there was only one individual who was so upset by this that that individual had to leave school and go home. That individual did not get fired. It was just
Very stressful.
Yes. But this is a state regulation, and I guess my question is, has anything in that regulation changed?
I can speak to that, Andrea. Districts have moved away from customarily giving blanket notices to all their non-tenured teachers because of the, basically the concern and the culture that it creates. So we specifically address only those individuals who are absolutely impacted. So we don't give the notices out to everybody who's non-tenured. They've moved away from that many years ago.
I see.
Yeah.
I would suggest that we move back to that, because that really does take out, I mean, if you get a letter, you know you're in trouble. So it is stressful. Now I'm saying, but at that time, everybody got them. So the stress was gone. That's it.
Okay.
Jay?
I'm sorry, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, my concern with this is one, a morale issue, that teachers, that it just seems like we don't appreciate them if we're, issuing them all pink slips, that all the non-tenured teachers. But my other concern, and I'd like to make an amendment in a minute, but is that we're basically allowing this to happen for not just the one position that we've already agreed on in the 7.91 budget, but this kind of leaves an open slate to go further by the board if there's a further reduction.
Lori, I think, can answer that.
Yeah, that's not the intention. The intention with this motion is just to address the letters that need to be issued for May 1st.
Yeah, I guess I'll go in and I'll make my amendment right now, and we can see if anyone agrees with me. But I would just like to make an amendment to require board discussion and approval for any reduction in staffing positions. So that if there's going to be positions that aren't going to be refilled, so we're eliminating, a balloon teacher, like a balloon class teacher or something, that the board is notified and has to approve that.
I'll second for a discussion.
Oh.
Thomas.
Sorry.
No, and thank you for doing that. The point is that this is not something that can be applied going forward. Any additional cuts beyond that one will have to come back to us. This letter only addresses the performance issues identified with, in conjunction with the union, and the one that's already been eliminated through the budget going to 7.91. So it's just those
So
two
this,
sets of features.
this
This
is,
doesn't give authority going forward.
Doesn't give blanket
but
authority.
we're not going to be giving any letters to anyone that, as of now, we're planning on having back next year?
No. And we don't do the blanket non-tenured letter anymore.
All right.
And let's hope and pray that there won't be any more cuts.
I agree.
But unfortunately, if there are, and we have to
We'll be back.
make cuts, then
We'll be back to talk
this
about
This
it.
will be back in a different, the wording may be slightly different, because again, this is mandated by the state.
Yeah, and I would just like to clarify, I went into old minutes to look back, and in 2017 and 2018 was the last time that I found anyway, that this was brought up. And in those, there were actual specific names of individuals in those 2 years. And then the last time there was, this wording was in 2017. So,
Yeah, we haven't had to do it for several of the intervening years. There were no budgetary.
and, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I just want to, this is for clarification, I just wanted to know, in terms of us being apprised of people who are not going to be renewed, is that what I'm hearing Mr. Johnson saying, that we should be?
That's what was done in 2017. Maybe Lori can explain why that changed.
Yeah, I don't recall it. I'm not saying it wasn't there, but I don't recall. We customarily, out of respect for the individuals, have maintained that confidential. I'm not sure why on that specific year there were names or positions indicated. I'd have to look back. I don't recall.
My concern is that we would then be getting into evaluation.
Yeah.
That is good concern.
Yeah. And we could not, first of all, it's not our position. And secondly, it's, there's a legal aspect to it as well. That we may be part of the judging group, I don't want to say jury, but we may, if we were to be involved with a termination, we can't have any knowledge prior to that.
Good point.
Yeah.
Dean?
I will say, I mean, I've never read 10-151 before. There's a lot of statutes, I don't know them all. But 10-151 is, got many parts. It deals with tenured and non-tenured teachers. It talks about rights to a hearing. It talks about appeals to the Superior Court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all different circumstances, lots of moving parts. So in principle, I agree with, I'm in agreement with the amendment, but I'm wondering how it would actually work together with the statute, because the statute does have lays out a role for the board under certain circumstances and certain things that we do or not do. So I think I'm going to not support it. I will have another amendment, though, just fair warning, that I'll propose. But I'll wait till this one clears the deck before I make that amendment.
All right. Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay.
Well, I guess maybe I'd be curious to know, I mean, is that, what's the concern as far as like the board's impartiality that Dr. Ackerman identified? Is that as far as like somebody appealing their termination?
I had two concerns. The first one is that our noses, if you will, would be in part of the evaluation, and that is not our position to do. And secondly, that if we were to have to hear a case, we would be the ones determining termination. and we could not have had any knowledge prior to that.
Okay, thank you.
If I might, subsection C of that statute does provide that upon teacher's written request, not later than 3 calendar days after such teacher receives such notice of non-renewal or termination, a notice of non-renewal or termination shall be supplemented not later than 4 calendar days after receipt of the request by a statement of the reason or reasons for such non-renewal or termination. Such teacher, upon written request, filed with the Board of Education not later than 10 calendar days after receipt of, who drafts these things? After receipt of notice of termination.
Lawyers.
Yeah. Shh. Or non-renewal shall be entitled to a hearing, except as provided in this subsection, 1, before the board, or 2, if indicated in such request, and if designated by the board. So I see Andrea's concern. There's a provision in here, potentially, for us to be a hearing body. So if we've sort of already, mulled it over and then become the hearing body, that there may be we'd have to all recuse ourselves. So, and it's not my field. I want to defer to Floyd, if he's out there.
But you're correct, Dean. That is correct.
Okay. I've never been through one, so I'm just reading the text as best as I can.
Okay, so we then are ready to vote on the amendment. Did you want to just restate your amendment so we understand again what we're voting on?
All right, so the amendment was to require board discussion and approval for any reduction in staffing positions.
I'm not sure how that
reads
amends
differently to me,
this.
As I heard again.
So my concern is just that, like I said, that things could be cut that the board didn't have say over in this motion.
Well, all I could say is that we would have to meet and vote again, because this only takes care of the ones that are mentioned tonight. This is not a blanket authorization to the superintendent to make anything additional. This is very specific to the one teacher affected by the.
All right, yeah, I did not
And
realize
if
that.
there
I
were
through
further ones, we'd also have to bring it to the board.
It would have to come
Go
back.
through the same process, so we'd do this again.
But we would have
That's why I
voted
asked
on
the
that
question.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was under the understanding because it said all new, it had 4 different years of non-tenured teachers, that it was going to, a list was going to go out to
And that
lots of
did
different.
take place in the past, even when I was a young teacher. That was kind of the practice that they did.
Yeah, I know, my wife was when she started. It was the
Yeah,
same thing.
so, but it's not happening now like that.
That's too bad.
I just want to say, I share, Adrian's concern, as well as like that. When I read this, I did not understand it to be highly targeted, the way it was phrased. But now hearing the discussion, I understand that it is.
It's a
and
small
for a very
group,
specific
right.
set
Yeah.
of people, so.
So I think on that, should I just withdraw my motion?
You
No,
may.
we should-
Does that seem reasonable?
You
All
could.
right.
You
I'll just
could.
withdraw the motion.
And,
I'll withdraw my second.
okay, thank you.
I move to amend this. I'm trying to think of exactly how to word it. We've talked about how this applies to a specific identified group. And out of respect, we're not, However, not that this is going to be set in stone for future boards to look at and try to interpret and divine what we meant. I don't think it would be a big deal to actually say, if we're talking about notices, May 1st notices, we actually say May 1st notices. In other words, some limiting language in here. I don't think you're going to abuse this, Susan, if we vote on this the way that it is. But I think it might go a long way to addressing some of the concerns that I've heard, which is, can it be used as a blanket? We probably won't, but that's because we've got language that's pretty clear, and plus our intent, which together are going to do what we've said is going to happen. But I'd prefer to have something in here that actually says something a little more limiting. If we're talking about May 1st, let's just say May 1st in here somewhere. But I'm still thinking about where to put it.
Where should we put that, Lori?
Can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
In the second paragraph, it states, it is further moved that superintendent of schools be directed to communicate this action of the board in writing to the above identified teachers on May
Thank you.
There you go.
Further.
That's my motion.
Is
Second.
it,
Now, do we make another, and further, the superintendent be authorized to respond on behalf of the Board of Ed to any requests that may be forthcoming from the above identified teachers on their representative pursuant to the Connecticut statute? Make that just 2 sentences then, furthermore?
No, my motion is to amend it, just like Lori said, May 1st, she spotted it, that's my motion.
Okay.
Put May 1st in there,
Yep.
and that's my text.
Did
Okay.
we have a second?
Second,
I think
Thomas.
Ian seconded it.
Then
Okay,
take off
I just
the
wanted
rest.
to double check that.
No, just leave it the way that it
All
is.
right.
Leave it the way it is.
Got it.
Jen has a question.
Just a question. So on that general statute, does it already state it needs to occur before May 1st, on or before May 1st, and so this would be redundant?
That's correct. The statute does indicate on or by May 1st.
But I think it's making it clear for us.
Okay, I'm just saying.
I think it's just one of those things to add to make it clear.
All right, I admit I saw that, but I figured I'd, be famous for something,
I think it's fine, just state it clearly, so there's no
Yeah.
misunderstanding, because not everyone's gonna have the time or the patience to go wade into the Connecticut general statutes, which, as Dean just demonstrated, can be incredibly dense.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am
As
the
an
poster
attorney.
child for dunce.
I second that.
Okay.
All right. So is there any other discussion on the amendment? Yes?
Okay,
Yes.
did Adrian and Ian withdraw their amendment?
Their amendment and their second, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so now Dean has made an amendment and Ian has seconded.
Yes, I got
Yeah.
that one.
Okay.
I got that one.
Okay, so now we're going to vote on the amendment unless there's
I
any
have
other
more.
discussion. You have more discussion.
Yeah, when I vote no, it'll be because I want to go back to the way it was. I think it's much less stressful for teachers, so I'm saying no.
Okay.
All right.
Any other discussion? All right, so all in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Beverly?
I'm abstaining because I can't hear what's going on.
Okay.
Good point.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. So Andrea's opposed, Beverly is abstaining. So that passes. Now we go to the main motion
As amended.
as amended. Thank you.
Maybe for Beverly's, just
Can-
to summarize
can-
for Beverly's
Yeah,
purposes?
Beverly, would you like me to reread that motion, the main motion?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
You tell her how we amended it.
We amended it by adding that this communication in writing must be delivered on May 1st,
Or prior to?
By May 1st.
by May 1st.
Bye.
Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion about the main motion as amended? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Beverly?
I can't hear what's going on, so I'm abstaining.
Okay. This is item 1 under new business. Any opposed?
What does that mean? Opposed? Nay.
And so Beverly, you're abstaining. Okay, so that motion passes.
That's fine.
And we take no pleasure in it.
I was going to say that.
All right. I take no pleasure in it. I can't speak for the whole board.
Speak for me.
The next item under new business, Dean, would you care to read the motion?
If I didn't. I move to approve Fitch High School's travel club's field trip request to Paris and Amsterdam. There's a combination. Scheduled for June 30th, 2025 through July 7th, 2025.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second Thomas.
Okay, moved by Dean, seconded by Ian. Any discussion? Do we have anyone want to?
Do you want to get a little
We do.
background?
We have two
Yeah.
teachers who've waited patiently for 2 hours.
Yes, thank you.
And they've given us their proposal. And I know they wanted to come even sooner. They had it ready, but we've been so busy with budgets. So I'm glad you're here tonight. Thank you for waiting so patiently.
Of course. So for those I have not met, my name is Laurel Wodecki. I teach at I teach at Fish High School. I teach English. I teach Honors 10 English, College Prep 10, and also AP ECE. I also run the Ed Rising program at Fitch, and I'm newly girls outdoor track coach, head coach. And I also have the pleasure of running the travel club. So before I talk about this trip, I ran a trip last year to London, Paris, and Rome, which I've had several students write in and let me know the things that they enjoyed about last year's trip. Most students enjoyed getting to go out of their comfort zone and experience things with some of their friends, but also make new friends along the way. I actually had one student write to me and let me know that she was a really quiet student, and prior to the trip, she never would have thought she wanted something like this. And this, she said, was a trip of a lifetime, and has gotten her out of her comfort zone so much that she has started a new club at Fitch that recognizes Asian students, Asian and Pacific Islander students, and she's also asked me to oversee that club. So I was very honored. She's a very quiet student, but she's coming into her own, and it's all something that happened because of the trip. So that was last year's trip. This summer, we're also going to Germany, Italy, and Switzerland, and I have 25 kids on that trip that are very much looking forward to it. We meet every month. And these students have voted that they think a lot of students would enjoy going to Amsterdam and Paris next summer. So this trip will take students to, first stop would be Amsterdam, and then they get to go to Brussels, and then they get to go over to Paris. So like I said, last year we did go to Paris, and it was one of the probably most popular destinations for the students. And something that I asked our tour consultant to add in was something that the students could do hands-on. So they're going to participate in an art activity where they would go all together and they'll make like a little art piece by a local artist. And I thought that was really cool because the students enjoyed things that were more hands-on, where they got to try things or try new foods. Something we did last year is we went to a perfume factory, and the kids liked that as well. So I found that those types of excursions that keep the students busy are more helpful rather than some of their free time. And then after, well, I guess, yeah, that's all the three things. I didn't know if there would be some hesitations with sending kids to Amsterdam, but the kids were looking forward to visiting the Anne Frank house because they read Elie Wiesel's Night in ninth grade. So they were really interested in going to see something like that. I'm trying to think what else. I had a lot to say, but I don't know.
So,
yeah, and then events going to be
accompanying
accompanying me.
I'm Senora Morales. I teach Spanish at the high school, and various levels. And the board was saying to us that you want something hands-on, something very cultural. I mean, imagine making art in Paris. That's what they would be doing. I mean, that's super hands-on. So, like, we were looking for that as well. If we went to Spain, or if we decided Spain, we wanted like some cooking class for the kids. And for this one, it would be an art class in Paris. So I think that's fabulous. And I've already run 2 trips and, been very successful. And this summer I was supposed to run another one, but the kids didn't sign up, so I made it an adult trip. So, but it's a lot of fun, and she's a great, she always gets a lot of kids to sign up for her trip. So I'm like, I'll piggyback up, with this one with you, because I'm not thinking of running one next year. So I want to be able to probably just, join her club too, and just get the Spanish experience and, just world experience as well, so.
Yeah.
And is there fundraising that goes along with it? Because I know the board has had always concerns of access, that all kids who would want to take the trip, how do we help them, support them?
Thank you for that question. So I've always find I'm in constant competition with the class, like the class councils and stuff like that. But I've done a couple Charleston Wrap fundraisers this year, but something that really was helpful last year is I ran a Snap Raise fundraiser and we raised about $5,000. And that really did make a difference. I was able to pay for our entire group to go to the Palladium in London, and we got to see the Wizard of Oz. So it was able to like get extra excursions for them. But to talk about students that can't afford the trip, I am actually in the midst of putting in a new fundraiser that should start May 1st. We no longer partner with Snap Raise at the high school. We have a different partner. So I got the contact information from Romano, and I'm working on that to raise some money. But in addition to that, something that I have discussed with my tour consultant is starting to put these trips in place a lot sooner so that the kids can pay month by month. So you'll probably see me again in September to put one forth for 2026 so that students could pay as little as like under $100 a month for a trip. And I think that would be the best way, honestly, to make it more affordable, is to just start a lot sooner and have like a, just a more like long-term plan, which is why I've asked Yvette to accompany me on this trip. Mrs. Olson's also accompanying me on the trip this summer. I'm trying to get more teachers involved so that we can like guarantee that, yes, we're traveling 2026, like here's where we're going 2026, here's where we're going 2027, right. So incoming freshmen, students can see, oh, okay, mom, dad, guardian, I want to go on this trip when I'm a junior. Can we sign up for it? And then they'd be paying a very small amount. So I think that would be a way to reach the kids and make it more affordable for everybody.
Thank you. And also, once they sign up, this company has an app that the kids can sort of fundraise on their own, and maybe by donations, and getting family members on their birthdays to just upload money there, and they usually get money, so that would be a good way of doing it too. Idea.
Yeah,
another way.
They get 100% of whatever's donated to them through that platform. I found like a lot of students don't use it. But I know some students are fortunate enough, like their parents will pay, but right. For students that aren't, like I really try to push that, like if you're mowing lawns this summer, give your neighbor the link. They can put $25 towards your trip. Like everything makes a difference. So that's something we're definitely going to push as we share this trip with our students.
Great. Any questions from board members?
I have a question.
Dean
first.
Sorry. And then.
Yeah, it's not so much a question as it is a comment. I've probably said this before. I'm not a world traveler, but I've been abroad probably since I was 4 years old. That wasn't my fault. But there is something mind expanding, especially for teenagers when they go overseas. There's a switch that turns on. I don't know about always, but I've seen it happen with myself. I've seen it happen with my kids. I've seen it happen with other people's kids, and they can also confirm that. And you know that as well. So I'm definitely a backer of trips like this if they're organized, and cross fingers and hope that everything works out okay and no one's left stuck in an airport or anything like that for strikes or anything. But yeah, there's a definite value. It's hard to put your finger on it, but you know what it is. There's a change in the child when they go overseas and come back.
Very good. Jen?
I noticed most of the locations you had mentioned is in Europe, and the euro is obviously higher. And have you ever considered going to like Latin America, where maybe like our exchange rates and the cost of the trip may be more favorable, so that people who can't afford a $3,000 to $4,000 trip may be able to afford like something that's $2,000 or so?
Yeah, so actually I was looking into some other trips in that area for next year or the year after, and I found a couple trips that I liked that were like more like mission trip based as well, but for some reason the price for the trip was really high. It was around $4,000.
Higher than Europe?
Yeah, so but that is something, because you were trying to go to Costa Rica and Panama, but not a lot of kids signed up for that trip for this summer.
Yeah, kids sign up if other kids sign up, if their friends sign
Yeah.
up. So that's the kind of thing, you know,
Mhm.
they talk among each other and, you know, root each other, like, let's go. And, you know, I had a few kids when we went to Spain, Portugal and Spain,
Mhm.
and they did that. Oh, she's my best friend, she's coming with me. And they did, you know, so they talk among each other about the trip. Central America and South America is not as cheap as Europe. It's actually sometimes even more.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if you think about it, you know, like the Peru, I took students to Peru, my first trip. That one was less than 4,000, so that one was pretty affordable.
Mhm.
But there's other ones that are as much as the Europe ones, I would say.
Yeah.
Argentina
Yeah.
and Chile, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause they-
I just, so maybe that's just because I'm old, but I remember
no.
traveling to Chile, Argentina, and the cost was just lower. Well, not Argentina as much as Chile.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely not against going to Latin America. It's definitely in the works, I can promise you. So a lot of the kids are interested in traveling over there as well. So
Mhm.
we'll definitely be putting that into motion, hopefully this fall. I've never been, and I'd love to go. So,
Ian?
Yeah, I just wanted to share Dean's sentiments. You know, I did a good bit of traveling in my life, and yeah, I'm in full support of operations such as this, and I like the idea of, you know, more firm future planning, so in the installment plans,
Mhm.
as far as paying for it goes. That's a great idea to increase accessibility. I'm glad that's already kind of in the works. Has there been any thought about seeking like sponsorships or trying to do like, organize like a booster club of some kind that could do some fundraising and have like a scholarship fund so that, you know, kids that, you know, come from, you know, much lesser means could, you know, maybe apply to get, you know, access?
I really like that idea.
We were talking about that.
Yeah,
weren't we, the last
they
time?
have, yeah, like EF has like a lot of different like documentation stuff that we can give and like access for our students where they could go like around and ask for sponsorship for their trip to like local businesses and stuff like that. But in regards to like creating, you know, a booster club or getting like, you know, information out to people and like saying, hey, this is a trip, like, and, you know, getting raising and donations to that and offer scholarship. I know EF offers that within there, but it would be nice to be able to offer that like from Groton to a Groton student. So that's definitely something I would be totally interested in starting as well.
Yeah, and I'm actually, you know, full disclosure, I'm a member, I'm the treasurer for the Fitch Falcon Music Boosters. So I've learned a lot in the past year about how booster clubs work. And we actually did do some scholarships for some of the kids that were going up to Boston for the trip that has happened over this past weekend.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, you know, that kind of opened my eyes to realizing what, you know, a booster club could do for kids that, you know, come from lesser means.
Okay, yeah.
We can talk to you about it.
All right.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Very well.
Any other questions or comments? Dean?
Yeah, one more. I'm just going to bounce off of Ian. What I've noticed with kids from modest means, what we euphemistically say modest means, it's not necessarily the means so much, it's the bigger problem is the lack of a horizon. The horizon isn't very broad. There's just been less, unless they happen to be children of immigrants and they've come a long way from somewhere, but if anybody was to go overseas, if I had my wishes, it would be people who can't afford to go overseas. I think they need it more. It's useful for everybody, but I'd love to, if I could think of a way to do this, short of actually dipping in my own pocket, and that's not necessarily out of the question. You didn't hear me say that, but my wife didn't hear me say that. But yeah, I think they need it far more. They need sort of like a wow moment, like, wow, there is something beyond my, you know, my immediate environs. Anyway, it's just a comment.
I agree. Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions or comments,
Yeah, I'll just,
oh, Adrian.
I'll just say quickly that I do appreciate that you're doing this for the kids. And, yeah, a scholarship for need-based would be something that would be
Yeah.
great if people could give to that. I know that my son went to Costa Rica with the middle school trip back when we used to do those. And he had a great trip. It was very eye-opening for him. He made great friends that he wasn't friends with before. He described it as like the breakfast club, where everybody comes together. So, and just getting to see a different culture like that. So I really appreciate what you're spearheading here.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for coming out tonight and sitting through our meeting and for organizing this trip. I hope it's very successful.
Thank you.
The motion on the floor is to approve Fitch High School's Travel Club field trip request to Paris and Amsterdam for June 30th through July 7th, 2025. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank
you
you
very
so much.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Ian, would you care to read the motion for item 3?
I'll make a motion to recognize May 7th, 2024 as National Teacher Day and to direct the superintendent of schools to send a letter of appreciation to the teachers.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
I know what you're thinking.
Well, yeah. I'll just say that, I'm in full support of this idea, but of course, given the budget constraints, it's a different world. But as we move forward, having days of appreciation and sending letters is all good, but we need to remember that when it comes time to the contracts. And I would hope the town council is listening and the RTM is listening as well in regards to that. We do ask teachers to do a lot. There's a lot of triage on the ground. Years ago, on the RTM, there was a significant increase going to the police budget, and it was at a time where they're looking at doing like community work and stuff like that, and we heard a lot about how much the police officers are asked to do, and how much they have to triage, and in my opinion, school is an extension of public safety, of the public safety net. So, investing in teachers, investing in students, it helps create a better society. Students that come through school and when they feel, engaged with a teacher and, enriched by an experience with a teacher, that opens up pathways for like a constructive existence, and it reduces the possibility of illicit behaviors or, high-risk behaviors. So I would just, and this is more just a general statement that I would encourage, everyone to value the schools on that same level as they would any other public safety agency.
Well said.
And human resource agency.
Yeah.
Because we are the heart and hub, and we know our kids, and we try to take care of them all, in every way.
Yes.
And our teachers do a great job.
I move that Ian be excluded from any future negotiation. Study you on.
Any other discussion?
I'd just like to echo what everybody said. I don't think there's a greater way of giving back to the community than to take a job in teaching. And I think just knowing the teachers as I do and saying again that we're all in this together. I couldn't advocate for this more.
Thank you. All right, so the motion on the floor is to recognize May 7th, 2024 as National Teacher Day and direct the superintendent of schools to send a letter of appreciation. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? That carries unanimously. And yes, we do pick out a day for teachers, but, you know, we do appreciate them every day. Adrian, would you care to read the motion to item 4?
Yeah. I would like to make a motion to recognize May 8th, 2024 as National School Nurse Day and to direct the superintendent of schools to send a letter of appreciation to the nurses.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Thomas.
And I'd like to say that this is especially poignant this year because our nurses you had their agreement with VNA canceled, and now we're in the process of bringing them in as employees of the district. And again, they're critical to be there in all the things they do, and their burden becomes, you know, greater every year in terms of the kinds of services they provide. And so we really appreciate them, and I really hope we're successful in transitioning this. Any other comments?
I do.
Questions? Yep.
My aunt was a Navy nurse during World War II. Don't you dare count. And she said to me, Andrea, if you'll go to nursing school, I'll pay for it. I could never do what you do, never. And I have experienced your expertise and your care as a teacher and as a principal, and I don't think there's a greater job in the world than this, so thank you.
Except for teachers. Except for teachers. Never mind.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, the motion is to recognize May 8th, 2024 as National School Nurse Day and to direct the superintendent of schools to send a letter of appreciation to the nurses. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? That carries unanimously. All right.
Yeah, I would like to make one addition. I'd like to make another motion. I'm not sure exactly how to do it. So I guess it would be a motion to suspend the rules to discuss the business manager. So I would like to make that motion. Is that how I would do it? Make a motion and then?
Is that something we could do tomorrow in our COW? And, you know, you mean for this meeting?
Correct.
If it's a personnel matter, that might have to go in executive session.
Yeah, well, I was going to get to that in my motion.
Okay.
I'll
So-
second it for discussion.
All right. So I'd like to make a motion to hold an executive session between the Board of Ed and business manager in an executive session if the business manager was willing to do that. So that is the motion I'll be making if we make the amendment to suspend the rules, or the motion to suspend the
So
rules.
as I understand it, and Joan, please correct me if I'm wrong, the motion on the floor is to...
I didn't hear any of it.
Okay, so let me see if I can restate this. The motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to add an agenda item.
Tonight.
We're going to add the agenda item tonight,
Okay?
and that has been seconded for discussion. So we need to vote first to agree
Well, I
to...
didn't get the complete motion, what it entails.
All right, the motion was to add an agenda item to discuss the resignation of the business manager.
Got it. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so we can vote on that all at once. Is that correct, Joan?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so moved by Adrian, seconded by Ian. Is there any discussion?
Just for clarification, when you said all at once, I understood the motion to be just to add an item to the agenda. I expect then will be followed by a motion to go into executive session. Okay.
Oh,
Well, not to go into
no,
executive
no.
session tonight, but to add an agenda item to request a future executive session inviting
Oh, I
Right,
thought it
business
was for
so-
tonight.
the former business manager.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is where I'm starting to feel like I'm the only one who's not crazy. So we're going to add an agenda item to today's agenda.
To
So that we
vote
go
on,
in and add an agenda item in another session.
well, calling for an executive session.
Yeah, why not just put that as an item in the next agenda?
Because time is of the essence.
Yeah.
Well, what
I-
I'm saying is we could do it, if we're going to meet tomorrow night, we could put that on tomorrow night.
agree to come, right? Is that what you want?
Well, I'm not,
I mean, I'll vote for the motion. I'm just-
I guess we needed to vote for the motion to talk about it, correct?
Right.
Or,
Well, we're in a discussion now.
all right. I
Right.
made this motion because I do feel time is of the essence. I would personally like to meet with the business manager and discuss, like, his experience in the district and understand better reasons for leaving. And, we've been through a few business managers and people in that office, so I would like to personally better understand. And I feel that we could do that in executive session, because we are discussing matters of personnel. So just to know kind of where we're going, how to go forward from this. It is going to be a heavy load on our district without him. Dave was very valuable. I really appreciated him, and it's a huge loss.
It's a huge loss.
For all of us.
Yeah. I would just echo the sentiments of Adrian there, and that's through, I'm in support of the motion I would have seconded it no matter what for discussion, but I am also in support of the motion to suspend so that we can make
I think we better just leave
the
it at
invitation.
the motion and not talk about why. But that should be in executive session.
That's right.
Well, all right, so if we just, if we want to vote on the motion to suspend the rules, then I can state the full motion. Is that the way it would have to happen? We'd first have to suspend the rules and then say the motion.
I don't
that I
think it's
wanted to add.
necessarily a suspension of the rules. You can move to add an agenda item. It would require a two-thirds vote of the.
All right, yeah,
of
so that was the move
board.
to add an agenda item.
Right.
Is that correct, Joan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so at this point, we are voting on a motion to suspend the rules and to add an agenda item to have a future executive session inviting the business manager to discuss.
Just inviting the business manager.
Well, how about if we just leave that first thing as just a motion to suspend the rules to discuss the business manager? And then that second motion can come
Okay.
next if we agree to talk that far.
Yes, Laura?
Hi, can I just add one piece of comment? Typically, when you're going to discuss a personnel matter, you do have to notify the individual and give them the opportunity whether they want that to happen in public session or executive session. So I just want to caution the board on that with the motion,
That's true.
because he's not aware at this point in time.
Jay, are you doing this tonight?
Well, no, we can't go into executive session tonight. We're just trying to get a sense of the board as to whether they would want to invite him to a meeting in the future.
The near future.
But to Lori's point, if we make it executive session, he has the right actually to make it open session.
Which seems reasonable,
Right.
if that was his choice.
At that time.
Yeah.
But for right now, I think we have to you know, to vote on whether or not we're going to suspend the rules to discuss whether or not we want to, you know, make that invitation.
Right.
So first we got to vote on the
So
suspension.
Jay, why are you suspending the rules? If
Because
you're
we're,
not doing it tonight?
because
Why
we're
don't you have a
adding,
motion
we're-
to go into executive session in the future to invite the business manager.
because we're adding,
You're not doing it tonight, so you don't need to suspend the rules.
we're suspending the rules to add an agenda item that was not published 24 hours in advance.
Oh, you're doing this tomorrow night, I take it then.
No, we're adding the agenda item to get a sense from the board as to whether they want to do this to tonight's agenda.
Yes.
I'm confused.
May I have one more question?
Yes, John?
Is this executive session going to be at the next regular board meeting, or are you going to have a special board meeting to handle this?
We haven't got there yet.
Yeah, we don't know that yet because first we have to issue an invitation to him. But it's my sense this is going to be a special meeting because I get the sense that people want to do this as soon as possible. So. All right, so the motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to add an agenda item to tonight's agenda. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
It's too foggy for me at this point.
I abstain.
Thank you, Bev.
Okay. So it does pass.
It's Dean and Beverly, am I correct?
Yes, Dean and Beverly abstained. So now,
All right, so now I'll make the motion. And I guess we can change a little bit if the wording isn't quite right. But I'd like to make a motion to hold executive session between the Board of Education and the business manager in an exit interview, if agreed by the departing business manager.
do I hear a second?
Second, Thomas.
Is there any discussion?
It's not a discussion, it's a question, right?
Mhm, yep.
So he just sent the email, right?
Mhm.
I believe he did not talk to you in advance, correct, Susan?
No, he had expressed some concerns to me and a
Okay.
family issue that he was dealing with, but I
Yep.
received a letter today. that
Okay.
I sent him.
So, did he have an exit interview with Lori as like the?
We haven't had time to do that.
Okay,
No. And he's still on board, helping us with the transition, so he didn't just, drop
Ye-
out.
yep.
Yeah.
My
Oh,
only.
yeah, so when is this, oh, sorry,
sorry.
when is his last day?
There was no indication on the letter.
Yeah, he hasn't defined his last day. He said sometime between now and his original thought was first week of June, but he's trying to help us through the transition. So he's relying us to secure some interim support and, make an appropriate transition. So
Okay.
he has not defined his exact end date, but
Mhm.
said it is coming soon.
Okay,
Yeah.
and he is still showing up, because, right, he was on vacation, and
That's
he is
correct.
still coming in.
Yeah, he's
to
coming in
work.
this week, yep, to work
Okay.
with the auditors, yeah.
Jay, this is a question for Lori. Lori, does the board conduct exit interviews?
I haven't seen it done before,
Yeah,
so.
I haven't either in my years here. So I'm wondering, again, my concern is, I think that the motion should say executive session to address or to, I guess, to address a matter of personnel, and that's it. I don't think we should be talking about who
When you
or
go into
why.
executive session, you have to be extremely explicit in why you're going into
Isn't that
executive
it?
session. Yes.
I think I've
Yeah.
heard that before, a matter of.
Yes, yeah, you can't just go in and say to discuss a personnel issue. You do have to say,
I thought I saw that before.
and then
but
that
I could be
person
wrong.
then has the right to have it in,
Mhm.
certainly in public session. So.
No, I know that.
I am concerned about whether we're crossing a line by wording this as an exit interview.
Mhm.
I just, I would have liked to have a little more time to talk to legal counsel about, that wording and our role in, getting that deep into the personnel aspect. And I think I would have preferred to see if this is something he wanted to participate in before we sort of make it a,
Yeah, I mean, his participation is outlaid in the motion.
yeah, but I'm just saying, maybe it would have been nice to give him a little notice before we sort of require him to appear, so to speak, and how that might affect his continued
Help.
help.
I do need his help.
Ian?
I would just maybe recommend, we could change some of the language, perhaps to say invite, and to discuss the resignation letter that he submitted. So it's not like an exit interview, it's just to discuss the situation. Maybe that could be,
Yeah,
we'd submit that as a friendly amendment to maybe adjust some of the language, to soften it, so it's not like we're going to hold the executive session no matter what. It's going to be, we would like to, discuss this situation more to understand, the reasoning, I guess.
Jay, I have a
Mhm.
question.
Yes.
So going back to something that we mentioned earlier where we,
Jen?
oh, sorry. So going back to somewhere where we were earlier, where we try not to identify individuals or any hiring or firing or whatever performance issues they may, for whatever it may be, that we need to be impartial. So maybe this whole motion may not be appropriate. So that should Dave or ever come back, that we need to be impartial and not know why he decided to terminate. I don't know, it's just something that came up, like, I was totally for, like, yes, let's interview, but then the minute exit interview came up, I know that was like the director of HR's roles and responsibilities, so maybe Dave has the conversation with Lori, and then we interview Lori at that point. It's just something to think about.
Or maybe just, if we just softened it, I think, with Ian's comment where we just invite him to meet with the board, I don't know, would that, I agree, that's a valid concern, from a legal standpoint.
I'm not even sure that we should have, I'm sorry. I'm not even sure that we should have talked about the letter of resignation. I don't think we should have talked about anything except to invite a staff member into, or if we have to name the member. But I think that's out of order. I really do. I say that respectfully.
Dean?
I recommend guidance of legal counsel.
Yes.
Mhm.
All right.
I was going to say that I know that we all believe that time is of the essence, but I would prefer to confer with the attorney. We can call a special meeting, maybe after the RTM on Wednesday,
Mhm.
and we can give notice of that tomorrow and be on firm legal ground. And in the meantime, decide that we're doing this correctly, so.
All right, I agree with that.
Okay.
Personally, so
with that, are you-
with all of this comment, which I appreciate, I will withdraw my last motion.
And-
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Jay, did you take a vote already?
No, he's withdrawing his motion. We're going to confer with Floyd.
What time is it?
We're going to now get into information, proposals, letters, and communications. I just want to announce that we received a formal, the town clerk received the formal resignation of Robert Mead, and she has forwarded that to the state. There is a vacancy now in elective office on the Board of Education. Our most recent past practice is to ask members of the community to send letters or emails of interest that could be to individual board members or the entire board. And the practice was then to interview those
Jay,
applicants.
remember, they have to be a Democrat.
Yes.
It's a Democratic seat.
Yep, and yep, I was getting to that, Beverly, and I'm also told that based on a recent legal opinion by the town attorney in relation to another recent appointment, that they have to have been a registered Democrat for 3 months in order to apply. So, with that,
Just a
Jay,
question.
yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John.
Yep.
So does that mean the Republicans can't interview, right? It's only the Democrats that can?
No, the entire board interviews and appoints.
Okay,
The applicant is filling a Democrat seat.
okay.
What it does mean is that by custom in this town and many other jurisdictions, that the parties, the respective parties, get a crack at it. The board, like the council, is free to interview and fill vacancies as it sees fit in accordance with the, keeping to the letter designation after the name. But the parties traditionally are given the opportunity to vet their own candidates and put forward their own candidates, and we can accept or not accept the party's recommendations. In this case, it would be the DTC of the town.
But this board's past practice has been to go directly and allow applicants. So
Oh, yeah.
unless there's an objection
just
to
saying
that.
that-
Yep.
but-
And just to follow on that, as a member of the Groton Democratic Town Committee, I can tell you that over the past few years, that the committee now no longer
Makes people come.
engages in the practice of endorsements for vacancies. They just refer everyone to the body and apply to it. They've taken themselves out of it
Yeah,
due to some, situations a few years ago.
And frankly, I would have preferred that myself.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a cleaner process, just to come straight to the body, anyone in the community. One point of clarification, I think, if I understand the law correctly, it's if a person has to be a registered Democrat if they're coming from a different party. If they're switching parties, they have to be a registered Democrat for 3 months to participate in a party-specific activity. But if they're unaffiliated and they register as Democrat, I think that it's not, the threshold is not so steep.
Okay. I'm going by,
yeah, I'm sorry. I would tend to agree because the reason for the rule is a 90-day rule, I think,
Yeah.
if not a 3-month, not a 3-month rule.
Yeah.
The reason for that is to prevent, games between the parties. So I think you may be right. And how the law is actually worded, that's different. But I think the intent was to keep people from switching back and forth for
Yeah.
games purposes.
yeah, I thought that was true too. If you were unaffiliated, that you could change. I got some guidance that was not true based on a recent town attorney. So I think we need to review that. I will also talk to Floyd about that tomorrow and get that nailed down. So more to come on that. All right. Beverly, do you have any letters, communications, or comments?
I had one letter from a parent, but I already spoke to Denise Doolittle about that letter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Beverly. Jen?
No, nothing to report.
No.
Andrea? Okay. Dean?
Nope.
Ian?
Well, a couple weeks ago, I did I became aware of a gathering of tenants from the Ivy Court neighborhood who were being affected by the new landlord that's bought the property and issued a series of notices to quit. And I've been working with the superintendent closely on figuring out the extent of how many families with students are going to be affected by this, and what sort of supports the board can provide as far as easing the shock. And, you know, the whole, of course, you know, with kids having to face the end of the school year with possibly moving to a different school district if they should leave town. So, you know, we've had a series of emails and text messages back and forth where we discussed the McKinney-Vento Act and the protections that allows the Board of Ed, the supports that allows the Board of Ed to extend to any student that may be impacted, basically ensuring that they can finish the school year here, and also possibly stay beyond into the next school year, depending on the situation. There is a home show, not home show, there is an expo that has a lot of services for people experiencing displacement. That's going to happen April 28th at the Thrive 55 Senior Center. From
Sunday night, right?
Sunday night, yep, April 28th.
We'll be there.
6 to 9 p.m. And yeah, the manager's confirmed, and Marge Fondulis has confirmed that the Board of Ed will have a table there. The school district will have, the school district will have a table there. And Denise Doolittle will be there with, you know, information about how to apply. I just got an email back from her earlier tonight where any family that is affected with a displacement such as this, all you have to do is bring documentation of your notice to quit or the eviction notices, and that can start the process. We can actually start filing the paperwork that very night on Sunday if the family feels the need to invoke those protections. And it's something else. We're also doing some more research. The situation at Ivy Court has been proven to be a tip of the iceberg. That it caught notice because some people in the neighborhood were vocal about it, and so in looking into that, we realized that there's a landlord that has a number of LLCs that have purchased a number of properties in town where this has already happened, is happening, or is likely to happen, including Phoenix Apartments, Sutton Place, and Fieldside Apartments. And that's what we know of now. So I would encourage anyone out there, any family that's received a notice to quit from a new landlord, to you know, drop into the senior center on Sunday, April 28th from 6 to 9 p.m., or to email the board and the superintendent
I can
as
also
well.
send out a parent square.
Yes.
To families. I'd like to do that. And we also get a homeless grant. And so that when we know that families are homeless, we're able to provide everything from backpacks to coats to whatever their needs are, even food, and help. We have food lockers at many of our schools. So we really, you know, want to support our families.
And another event that I went to recently was a kelp dinner. It was at the Shipwright's Daughter in Mystic last night, and it was hosted by a group called Eat the Ecosystem, and it's a nonprofit group, a number of like local fisheries, you know, fishing boats and restaurants, and some ocean ecology professors have all banded together, and what they're doing is they're looking at ways to use, it's not commonly known seafood, like, you know, green crab was on the menu last night, and various other things. And fantastic, tasted great, and really enjoyable event. And I would, that's something else I'm going to kind of try to incorporate the board into thinking about as far as looking at our food supplies in the school, and maybe trying to, engage with this group in some ways, because just looking at a more holistic way of engaging with our environment and living off of what is easily accessible.
All right, thank you. Adrian?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I just want to express my own personal, how upset I am about the budget, that hopefully the 7.91% budget, but the cuts and how devastating that was last week. One thing I hope for is that we can put a clear understanding for what this is, what the effect is going to be, what the effect of the cuts that we have already made, which is a lot more than the ARP ESSER money. But I feel like from some of the comments from the counselors, they still don't understand portions of the budget. Some line items, we put new things into a category, and I feel like some of the counselors' questions alluded that they didn't understand why that was, and that we were just spending more money, where it had just been moved from one line item to another. So
Jay and I had talked about two of those things, so we can certainly make clarifications.
yeah, well, so I'm hopeful that that in addition to hopefully the RTM having answers to these questions before they vote, so that if they have questions about line items, that they have all the information so they can make a fully informed vote, because I feel like that may not have been the case based on some of the questions.
I had reached out to them weeks in advance, and I only got 5 questions from Counselor McBride. Now, the mayor said that she sent them April 2nd, or someone sent them, but I only got the notice, and Dave was up till 1 o'clock in the morning answering them, because we got it at the COW at 4:45. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I wanted them. I kept reminding the town manager, we need those questions ahead of time. I want to be able to answer them, kind of like what we did with our frequently asked questions, just to have them so that we knew. And that was unfortunate. So I will do the same thing. I'll talk to Mike Whitney about, J.C. Ambrose about trying to get questions ahead of time.
Yeah, I think I just feel that the community sees a big number and they just don't understand that 3.2 million is just healthcare.
Yes.
Like, of the increase. I mean, it's almost 4% of that.
And they're giving
7.9, and they only give us
4.5 total.
Well, I'm just saying, healthcare is almost 4% of that alone.
Right.
Let alone contracted increases in salaries, teachers that are getting steps up. And if we are forced to cut teachers, we are going to be cutting our future, because we are going to lose the, number one, least expensive staff, and the teachers for our future. I mean, this system has to go more than year by year. We have to look down, just like we've been talking about reading and getting those scores up on younger kids so that they're more successful and need less services later on. We need to have a future vision for the school system, and I hope the people that serve our community in making these budget decisions take that into account.
Thank you. And again, there's a RTM Education Subcommittee meeting at Thrive 55 this Wednesday.
No, it's actually been moved to here, so there's room.
Oh, I'm
People
sorry.
should show up.
I'm sorry, it's moved to this room.
I just sent that message up
Okay.
to,
So-
My
school messenger.
apologies, so it's going to be here. Do we remember the time? Is it 6 or 6:30?
I thought it was 6. I've got it
Now,
here.
it's open to the public,
No, it's 6:30.
6:30. It is open to the public, however, it is a committee meeting, and so there is no public comment.
Right, and I
But-
put that message out to the public too.
But at the May 1st RTM meeting, which begins at 6:30 PM, will be preceded by public comment. And that's when anyone who wants to come out, and that's the only meeting, budget meeting, where there'll be public comment.
And there's a particular rule that we put in on the school messenger for how they do proceed.
Yeah, how they sign up. So it starts at 6:30, it starts with public comment. There are about 7 or 8 accounts that will then be considered before the education budget, so could be a long night.
Along those lines, something to add, another communication we received was from the moderator of the RTM, who stated that it's his belief that only ex officio members of the body can sit at the table to answer questions about the budget, which I just wanted to point out that I don't believe that's a correct interpretation of those rules. Many people present to the RTM from departments all across town that are not members ex officio of the RTM. So I will be in attendance on May 1st. I will speak as a citizen, since it's been defined that I am not an ex officio member of the RTM as a board member, only the chair is. But I am looking for RTM members who will appeal the rule of the chair to clarify the fact that anyone that is from the Board of Ed should be able to sit up there and defend the budget that we approved and answer questions, similar to how we did with the town council. We all bring different perspectives to our understanding of the budget and the way we can defend it and advocate for it. And so I think we should have that right. And I'm not sure exactly what the legal process is. I know that the cleanest way for it to do it would be the RTM to appeal the rule of the chair, but they may not even know what he's done or is trying to do. So that may be something we might need to consult with our attorney on, as far as how do we assert that case, as far as if any board members want to sit with the chair and the superintendent up at the table in front of the RTM and share the burden of advocating for the budget.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think, that it's a team effort. It's a team effort that got us here, and it's a team effort that could carry us through. So I think we should be allowed that right. And again, I disagree with his interpretation of the rules, the terms that he used. It's not an ex officio matter. If someone was to stand up in the middle of the RTM meeting and try to participate in the questions, from the gallery, that's where an ex officio status would grant someone the right to speak, where any town councilor could do that, or the chair, or the superintendent could. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about presenting a budget as if we're a department from the town, as Dean identified. So so I don't know. Can we reach out to Floyd and get a quick?
I've added that to my list for tomorrow.
Okay, appreciate it.
Speak quickly, because he's by the hour.
Yes, well, I think it's 6-minute increments.
Well, that's why I'm kind of doing this preamble now, so maybe you can start doing the homework.
Anyway, okay. If there are no other comments, we have our future meeting dates and calendar items. Are there any future suggested agenda items? This would be where you would just state them. Of course, you're always welcome to email them with more information. But personally, I feel as though all of our efforts at this point should be directed to one thing.
Get this budget.
Yeah, the budget.
And that'll be the focus of our meeting tomorrow night, is not just
Yes.
assessing where we are and what our fallback positions are, but also how best to advocate for the budget that we desire.
And I think that if
And
I
need.
show you what the admin team kind of came up with, they're just suggestions, so don't take it personally. Like I said, it made me cry. It was heartbreaking. It was hard for them. But just trying to see what was possible and what at each million means. It's devastating. It gets worse and worse and worse.
And I don't want anyone tuning in tomorrow night to think that that's what we're going to do, but it is a scenario that may play out based on how much is.
Well, and I think that also would satisfy Adrian's concern that he just articulated about having a firm understanding and being able to communicate that to the town council, to the RTM members. Right now, the RTM is next up to bat. They're the ones that could reverse the decision of the town council.
Yes.
But that needs to be a 2/3 vote of that body, which is around about 35 people is the total body right now. They don't have a full 41. So 2/3 of, 35, that's a significant number.
It is.
So we have to have a strong case.
And we might need a lot of people there
Yeah.
to show up.
Now,
All right.
motion to adjourn, if I wake up.
Do I hear a second?
Oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
No, we just want to stay here all night.
One of them.